Live. All right, give it a few minutes here. Let's see if we can't get some people to join in. And we'll see, because well, we got one person jumping in already. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
How you doing, mates?
Welcome to Gear Talk with Nick. If you guys have any questions whatsoever about Gear Talk, this is a man to ask. This man right here is Nick Myers, Breakaway Tackle. All right, Nick. So I am going to go ahead and ask some questions. I'm going to record this, so I'll be able to go through and pull some things out. Okay, so when people are just getting into fishing, what do you recommend them fishing for, let's say, out at the beach?
Here's the deal. Right, there's two ways you can do it. You can go to Walmart, you can buy a $30 rod and just do it, and when you finish, throw it away. But if you're serious about targeting fish and making it a hobby that you're going to enjoy for the rest of your life, you need some quality gear. But there's rules to it. For example, everything has to balance. People come in and they'll ask me, you know, what rod do I recommend? I need to know where they're going to fish, how they're going to fish, and what they're targeting. Targeting species is more than likely the most critical thing you can learn about surf fishing. Is if you go into the beach, you're going to focus on trout, you're working on lures. If you're going after redfish, you might be a particular time of year, you're going to be using live bait. But let's start right from the beginning and understand that everything you're using has to balance.
Right.
All right, the rod choice, the line size, the reel size, everything depends on the bait you're throwing and weight and the fish you're targeting. So, for example, a reel this size needs a minimum of 4 ounces to effectively cast as it should.
Right.
All right, and if you want to go lighter, then a reel that size would be what you would be using for targeting, using plugs, etc.
Right. Like, for example, this morning's live, when I was throwing my little spook, my little 1 ounce spook,
Right.
that would be a great one for it.
It's absolutely perfect for it. Same thing applies with the rod. The rod you pick or choose has to achieve what they call lockdown. That's the ability for that rod tip to go 90 degrees at the beginning of the cast with the weight you're using. If you haven't got sufficient weight, it will not achieve lockdown. And if you're using too much weight for that rod, it will go over lockdown where the tip goes beyond 90 degrees, and that then starts working against you and could be detrimental to the health of the rod. In Europe, we use a thing called test curve, which I tried to get adopted over here, but it didn't really take on. But I do use it if a customer or a company sends me their blanks to test, to put a weight range on them, then I use a thing called test curve. What we do is we trap the rod in that position going across, and we hang weight on the tip until the tip hits 90 degrees. Now when you do that, that shows you what the test curve of the rod is. It could be, like on this particular rod, maybe 3 or 4 ounces. On a bigger rod, it could be like a pound. But it lets you know what the rod's ability is. Where that bend takes place, could you put your hand out flat?
Yeah.
Where this bend takes place indicates the speed of the rod. As you can see, this is all bent by the tip, so it's a very fast action rod. Okay? If that bend took place, say here, it's saying that the rod is getting slower in action. Effectively, the faster the tip you've got, the further away from the reel seat, the further that tip is away from you, the faster that tip is going to travel. Okay, and that's what's going to generate the energy that gives you the cast. So if you've got a 13-foot rod that's really fast, you'll end up casting like an 11-foot rod. When it's loaded, it'll be down to about 11 foot, but you'll come through, it recovers, and that tells you what it's doing. But if the rod bends all the way through, instead of being an 11-foot rod, you end up with like an 8-foot rod, and that slows down the tip speed. This is where the tip speed's the fastest. The further it comes down here, the slower the tip is going through the air, and that's all you're relying on to generate the power to get the distance you need. All right? So again, it comes down to what you're targeting, and what you're throwing. Another thing I get asked by customers is if they buy a particular rod, how far will they be able to throw? There's a lot of things come into that. That's like walking into a shoe shop and say, how high can I jump if I put them Nikes on? It don't work like that. There's a lot coming in. There's line size, there's reel size, there's rod type, and your technique. They're all part of achieving distance.
Okay, so for example, a customer comes in and says they're wanting to target redfish, like at the jetties, right? What would you recommend for them to use? And let's say they're fairly new at fishing.
Fairly new. Live bait.
Live bait
is a winner.
So right. Croaker soakers.
Croaker soakers. You don't need a mullet for redfish.
Croaker, mullet. Yep, those will work.
So if you get them, I'd recommend them using bait.
Yeah.
And if they're on the bottom and they throw the bait, do not continuously wind the reel. Put it out there and leave it there on the bottom if that's what you're using.
Let the current move it.
If it's going to move.
Right.
If not, trap it where it stays. That's where. Ideally, when you're fishing jetties, you do not want a rolling bait.
Right.
A rolling bait will just pick up everyone else's line.
Yes.
So you need to throw it on hold if you're fishing bottom.
Okay.
Now, we had a big tournament down here that went over like 3 months to catch the most oversized reds by one fisherman.
Right.
The particular chap who did it was a gentleman named Spooner, using one of our Omega 10.6s, throwing Spooner lures. He invented the lure. So I went to write a story on him, and he had it down to a science. He said, I need to be there at 9:15 on this particular day. So I drove out. I was there. I got there a little bit early. He didn't throw. He was just waiting till 9:15. 9:15 he threw out. He was straight into redfish. He knew exactly when they moved through.
Right.
He knew what depth they were at. And within 10 casts, he had his limit.
Wow.
Right. And he was the inventor of the Spooner. So the Spooner lure, could you get me? Let me get you one. Hang on, you stay there.
All right. Hey guys, if you guys have any questions whatsoever for Nick, feel free to drop them up here. We'll go ahead and put them up there. We are talking with Nick, and there we go. Welcome guys, thank you guys for joining. We're talking with Nick.
Typical Spooner lure. This one weighs 3 ounces. I think we did a casting tournament where we actually used these, and I think Jerry Valentine won it with a cast of 560 foot, throwing one of these.
Oh, nice.
So they actually go down, and his trick was he would throw it out there. Because you're using long rods, you can't use the tip of the rod to move the lure. You have to use the reel. So you'd throw it out, he would do a count, 1, 2, 3, 4, after it hit the water, and then it would be 1, 2, 3, stop. 1, 2, 3, stop. He wouldn't move the rod. The lure would do this.
Come up and swim down. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So that's how he got the action, was simply.
But he knew that he'd work out the depth, and he would stay at that count.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay, so beginner fisherman, what kind of reel would you recommend?
Here's the deal. For a beginner, I would definitely recommend a spinning reel.
Spinning reel.
Yeah, and spinning reels have advanced so much now. It's amazing. In the old days, you had to have a really big reel to handle the line because you were using mono.
Right.
And the diameter was pretty big, so you had to have a really big reel. But nowadays, this reel has got like 220, 230 yards of braid. It will throw awesome distance. It's not heavy. So the game has changed. Now a good spinning reel setup will cast as far, especially for a beginner, as a bait caster.
Okay.
And easier to learn.
Right. Now I know you said they got into the new Daiwas, and those do not backlash.
No, they don't.
They don't backlash, and they're not electronic, so they're not the electronic ones.
Right. Well, the key to this is magnetism.
Right.
Right. They've got a moving plate, so when you start the cast, when it's at its maximum speed, this plate moves out into the magnets, slowing it down. Also, the spools are super light, so they're not storing kinetic energy like a heavy spool will.
Right.
So like the heavier the spool, the more energy it stores, the harder it is to control during the cast.
Right. And the more chances you will have backlash.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. 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 Okay. So if I was to bring somebody in here and to get them set up, first time fishing, let's say at the jetties or just right along the beach within the first, second cut.
Yeah,
right?
the alpha, like
the alpha?
There's a setup. Something like that. Oop, hang on. Oh. There. That would be the type of setup.
So an alpha like that would be great.
7.5 foot rod, throw 1.5 ounces. They put a live mullet on, but you can throw a shrimp. And you'll catch a ton. These bring in jackfish, redfish, everything.
Okay.
Really good all-round rod.
Awesome. So
plus you can throw plugs on it.
Yeah, that would be good too. That or the 2-piece, 1-piece maybe?
That's a little bit heavier range.
Right.
So again, like if you were fishing the first cut, the other thing about these rods, a 7.5 foot rod is really targeting fish within 40 foot.
Okay.
Okay, if that fish gets over 40 foot, you're risking it. So when you go to the surf and you realize you're fishing within 40 foot, you've got to use a rod that can do that for you, that you can add action to the lure, but also you need the ability to stop that fish that you're targeting getting over the bar into the next gut.
Right.
Because you're going to lose them. You can hang on to them. The key also is never stand still and fight the fish. If the fish is moving, it'll normally break with the current on its back. It's going to go with it.
Right.
All right, because he's going to take the angle of least resistance. So what normally happens, he'll pick his bait up, he'll run out, and then he'll turn with the current and he'll go up. Your job is to stay in front of that fish.
Okay. Awesome. Did you guys catch that? Stay in front of the fish. Kind of like baseball. Stay in front of the ball.
There you go.
Awesome. 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 Okay. So,
is there any questions?
Do you guys have any questions whatsoever? I got some likes. Hey, what's going on, Fishing Brian? How are you doing today? At least he's on there, I think. Let's see. Oh, here's something we can talk about. I'm going to grab your rig that most people get confused by. So you got some 3, right?
Mm-hmm. They get confused because they're not used to using clip-down rigs. Clip-down rigs are a principle. Okay, this sinker was invented, the style of sinker that people call Sputnik was invented by Breakaway in the UK and then copied in the US, and people started using the name Sputnik. But this design to rotating wires was designed by a gentleman named Nigel Forrest, who was a world champion longcaster, worked at Breakaway, and he came up with the original aerodynamic sinker with rotating wires. Nigel Forrest was an awesome inventor. I mean, that guy came up with more stuff than you can ever imagine. Now, I invented the imp, the concept, but I sent it to him and he did the final design on it. So we were both mentioned in that patent. This particular sinker, which uses round sinkers, is an invention of mine, and I've got the US patent for that. The reason I invented this is so fishermen can make their own sinkers by just buying our kit. By using rotational wires that release when the fish hits, it allows far more action in the feel of the fish. In fact, pompano will jump on a 5 or 6 ounce lead. I've seen that happen. So let's take you through the rig. I'm going to get Eric to hold that swivel for me.
Got it.
So this crimp here, hold tight, is adjustable. You can slide it up and down. That is really the essence of being able to make rigs easy, because it allows you to not be so critical about the length of the snood. The snood is the piece that goes with the hook. We always use a loop because we like circle hooks, and it allows free movement of the hook to rotate and get the corner of the mouth when the fish strikes. This goes into the imp, so you put your bait on and then you just pull tight until it's streamlined. Boom. So as you can see, as it's going through the air, everything's streamlined, the bait's not rotating as it comes down and hits the water. Boom, does that. So protect the bait, accelerates at the same speed as the sinker, so it eliminates the shock of the cast on soft baits, leaving them on the beach.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I know when I came in here one day, you were telling me that people were having difficulties understanding the concept of how that worked. But
well, it's only because they've never used, you know, I mean, like in Europe, everyone uses clip down rigs, especially if you're a power caster. I mean, I've seen the rigs they sell, they've just got a straight snood coming off with a hook.
Right.
You're going to leave your bait on the beach 9 out of 10 times, right? Plus, by making everything aerodynamic and eliminating this rotation, you get 1/3 increase in distance.
Awesome, awesome. And when you're talking about getting that distance, for example, when the pompanos start running down here, they're typically between the second and third cut, right?
You're looking at, to get a lot of pomps, when you, I mean, people say, oh, I caught it in the first go. You will.
Right.
All right. But they tend to be further out, about 150 yards. So you need a small bait. You need to locate where they are. They're normally in a very small area. For example, you could be fishing with a friend and he's casting 30 foot to one side of where you are. He will be in them like thick and you're not. He's on a coquina bed. They're coming in and they're focusing on that bed. You need to, so when you're hunting for them, you need the ability to cast out there where they're at. And I'm talking about filling an ice chest up with them, all right, in a couple of hours. You can't fish 3 rods. When you start pomp fishing, 1, 2 rods maybe at the most because you're so busy, all right? You've got to locate where you think they are. You look for coquina on the beach. You ideally want a sunny day, early morning where it's flat calm. You drive along the beach, see a gut at about 150 yards, and you work 3 rods out. You'll put 1 over here, 1 straight in front of you, 1 to your left. You don't need people near you. You need to be really by yourself so you can get a good spread. Whichever rod goes off, that's where you move all your rods to.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, guys. I'm going to call it for today. I want to
thank you guys.
Thank you guys very much.
Don't forget breakawaytackle.usa.com. Also, I do daily beach reports along with Eric. I do them every day. And we've got a shop here in Corpus Christi, or you can go to our website. But thanks very much for watching. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys. Holler at you guys later.